All right, in 1 minute, we'll get started. All right, with it being 8:30, we'll call this meeting to order. My name is Ryan Nelsistun. I'm chair of the Governor's Pardon Advisory Board and also his chief legal counsel. I'll go over a few housekeeping items and then introduce members of the board, and then we will get started with our first applicant. So how the process works this morning is you should have received some communication from the governor's office explaining, what we want to hear from you. In short, we want to hear from you in your own words about a couple of things. We want to know why you committed a felony, how it was committed. We want specific details. We want from in your own words. And then we want to know what happened afterwards and why you believe you've earned the right to be pardoned by Governor Evers. Please keep it short and succinct. We have about 10 or 15 minutes with each of you, and we want to make sure we have time for the board members to ask you questions. We've had an opportunity to read through your application materials, but this is our opportunity to try to fill in some gaps and get a little bit further clarification and explanation from you. I will be calling you up in the order that you are listed on the public notice. So we will be starting with Carol Matthews, then Anton House, then moving so on and so forth throughout the list there. After we get done with today's hearing through the public session, we will be moving into closed session at 11:30 for purposes of considering each of your applications in personal and financial background, and then we will be making recommendations to Governor Evers. If you receive a majority support of the board members present, your application will be forwarded to Governor Evers, and he'll make a final decision on whether or not to grant you a pardon. If you do not receive majority support from this board, your application will be denied and you will be able to reapply for a pardon in 18 months from the date of denial. Similarly, if we recommend your application to the governor and he rejects it, same thing, you'll be denied and you'll be able to reapply in 18 months. Before we get to our first applicant, I'm going to introduce everybody. So we have a number of our board members here today. Because we're doing this by Zoom, I'll do quick introductions. So we have with us today Cindy O'Donnell. Cindy is with the Wisconsin Department of Corrections and previously served for a number of years in the Wisconsin Department of Justice in various roles. We have Myrna Warrington, who's a vocational rehabilitation specialist director, and then is also a tribal council member. We have Judge Jeff Kremers, who's a retired chief judge from Milwaukee County. We have Jerry Hancock, who's a former state and local prosecutor. Nadia Perez-Reyes, who's assistant deputy secretary of the Department of Children and Families and previously a public defender. And last and certainly not least, Noble Ray, who is the former chief of police for Madison Police Department, and now is a consultant on racial and implicit bias. And so with that, Carol Matthews, if you wouldn't mind turning your video back on, you will be our first applicant speaking today. So Carol, can you hear me? All right, well, maybe loop back to Carol then once we get that straightened out. So we'll then go on to Anton House. Anton?
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks for being with us, Anton. So as I just explained, you have the next 5 or 10 minutes or so to explain your story, and then we'll open up for questions from the board. So please proceed.
Okay. First of all, I would like to say thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for seeing me this morning. My name is Anton House. I come from southeastern Wisconsin, Racine City. I was a youthful offender as a young guy growing up in the wake of deindustrialization, the influx of gangs, as well as the crack epidemic. I adopted a certain lifestyle that was counterproductive, not only to my community, but also to the society and the state that I lived in. Unfortunately, at the time, due to the climate that I was living in, as well as the other individuals who influenced me, I made poor decisions. However, I didn't see at the time the longer ramifications that they would have in shaping my life. Unfortunately, I earned incarceration where I served prison terms. And while incarcerated, I took advantage of all the programs that were provided to me. In the DOC, I was able to go to school as well as learn patience and discipline. So upon my release, I took advantage of every opportunity that was presented to me in order for me to be successful. Racine Community Reentry Program, I did a Weldon boot camp. However, my passion was more in the academic setting. Therefore, I enrolled in the University of Wisconsin Parkside. And today, working hard, rigor and discipline, I am a history professor at Delaware State University.
Do we have questions from the board? Jeff?
Good morning, Mr. House. So I just want to make sure I understand the sequence here because it was a little hard to track on your on the records. You got arrested for and charged with 148 grams of cocaine, and then you were out on parole, or yeah, it would have been parole under the old law. And then you picked up a new charge and went back to prison. And I assume some of your parole time was, you were revoked on the parole, I assume, as well. So can you tell me when you got out of prison for the last time?
I was released in 2006, November.
And when you were released in 2006, were you then on paper for some period of time?
Yes, I was.
For how long?
I believe I was on paper from 2006 until 2012 or 13.
Okay. And then on the upside, you're not just the professor of history at Delaware State. You have a Master of Arts from Howard, as well as a Doctor of Philosophy from Howard University?
Yes, sir.
All right, well, good job. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Jerry?
I have a quick question.
Or no?
Mr. House, clearly you're academically accomplished, and congratulations on your accomplishments. But just short and to the point, how can a pardon help you being so academically accomplished, and what are you looking for out of this?
Well, for me, a pardon will help for me to have full enfranchisement back into my republic. From reading, learning, and being a part, and especially paying attention to the political climate, there's nothing more important than citizenship and being fully enfranchised and having all those rights that I did not know that I had lost. The continued invisible consequences of having a felony conviction. Due to me being a felon, I had to live in different places based upon my felony conviction, or were turned down from different places where I couldn't live because they were fearful of my past, that I would engage in a criminal lifestyle. That was an issue that I had out here in Maryland, and why I testified in Annapolis, in which we helped get a bill passed in 2018 on the collateral consequences of a felony conviction.
Jerry?
You had an amazing letter from Dr. Nikki Taylor, the chair of the history department at Howard. Did you see that letter?
No, I did not.
Oh, well, it's really great. And what was your thesis?
I wrote a thesis on a former slave who, after going through brutality, trauma, and the harshnesses of slavery, he was able to evolve. He joined the military. He fought to save the Union. Afterwards, he fought against the Ku Klux Klan during Reconstruction. Later on, he moved to Virginia, the capital of the Confederacy, and established the first Black bank, in which he created a national financial infrastructure that extended from the Atlantic to the Pacific, which laid the foundation for many of the spaces that are identified as Black Wall Street. This former slave, through no education, he was able to innovate the way that insurance worked in the Black community. So during the turn of the 20th century, you see a lot of Black insurance magnates that covered across the United States. They were all former members of his organization and worked off of a template that he discovered.
Wow. That's impressive. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Cindy?
Morning, Dr. House. How are you today?
I'm well, ma'am, and yourself?
Oh, good. I'm good. Thank you. On your employment record on your application, the present job you list is a lecturer at Howard University. When did you start working at the University of Delaware?
The fall of 2019.
Okay. And you're there full time now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you have two sons?
Yes, ma'am.
And how old are they?
My oldest son is 21 and my youngest son is 2 years old.
Huh? There's a gap.
Yes, ma'am.
And how are they doing?
Well, both of my sons now live with me in Maryland. They're happy, they're healthy, they're receiving positive affirmation and guidance and discipline. So they're doing well.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any further questions from the board? Well, Dr. House, thanks for meeting with us today. In terms of the process from here on out, I explained in terms of the board's role in that, but in terms of overall time frame, you should be hearing a determination in the next few weeks. But I appreciate your time.
All right, again, thanks for having me.
Thanks. We'll try Carol Matthews. Are you there? So I think maybe
I'm here.
Okay. Hi, Carol. All right. So Carol, as you just heard from our previous applicant, now is your opportunity to share your story with us. So if you could just spend the first few minutes here explaining how you got your felony conviction and what you've done since then. Carol?
Yes. Hello.
Okay. Hi. So now's your opportunity. You're with the Pardon Advisory Board now. So if you could explain, as the governor's office wrote to you, if you could explain the circumstances that led to your conviction and what you've done since then, and then I'll open up to the board to ask you some questions.
Okay, I did send a folder to the pardon board, and it has everything in there. But what led to my conviction is that I was a single mother. My son was born when I was 18. And I think what they call it today, because I'm 64 years old, not 54, 64. What they call it today, and that's why I'm dating that, is that I had what they call a deadbeat dad. So I was pretty much on my own out there entirely to take care of my son. And I could recall working for a cleaning company. And the cleaning company allowed me, fast forwarding this stuff, so I won't take so much time, allowed me to take my son to work with me so he would not be a latchkey kid. And then one cleaning job ended up to another cleaning job and another cleaning job. I cleaned banks and buildings at night when it was vacant. So that's what led to it, because I now was considered what do you call that? Failure to report AFDC for receiving AFDC and what do you call, and working without reporting it.
And what has happened since? What has happened since then? Can you tell us, just share a little bit about in terms of your job and life since then?
To the job, what did I have to do for the job?
Just what's happened since your conviction.
Oh boy, it's been a lot, a whole lot, you know, especially after all these years. What happened was I started working as a home health aide many, many years ago. And then what I did was to fast forward again, I started a small business, which is called a supportive independent living. And I cared for disabled adults in apartments that I purchased. What are they? Condominiums. And everyone lived there, and I would go in and service them by the way of the family care, community care program. And I have been self-employed for 20 years as a servant of disabled people. Over 20 years, really, of disabled people.
Great, thanks, Carol. Do members of the board have questions? Jerry?
Carol, you have cared for some of these clients, right, for 20 years. Is that correct?
Well, as my business, I cared for people for 20 years, but by the way of family care, community care, I have had an LLC that I would actually contract with them to go in and service disabled people. The people that I serve are dual diagnosed folks. They may be mentally ill, mildly so. They are physically challenged with some other cognitive concerns. There's just a host of different folks that I serve. Altogether, it was like 7. Early, I had a room and board on 31st and Billard, and I was with CSPs and Target Case Management, and I rented rooms to mentally ill, that was their diagnosis, adults. Actually, I lived in the house there with them. I live in the house with almost everybody because I always had like an extended family type of thing going on with the way I ran things, and I still do.
Just to be real clear, a change in the rules means that this felony conviction makes it difficult for you to get the contracts to continue caring for these people. Is that right?
Yeah, because what actually happened, the way I'm getting it, and I'm just repeating what I heard, the federal government came down with a rule, and they passed it on to the state. And what that rule is called is an electronic verification visit. And what happened was with small businesses like myself, and I'm hearing a whole bunch of others, literally had to close down because we would not be able to meet the overhead of our small business. And the reason being is because what they want to do is pay us on an hourly rate between $9 and $10 an hour. And no one can run a business like that. And especially me, because I never hired employees. I actually did all the work myself. I did try to attempt to hire one person, and that just didn't work out. And that's because I have a specific way of how I like to clean, cook, and deal with people that have special needs, because I'm just really concerned about how people are treated. You know, it's kind of treating people the way you want to be treated. So I just worked myself. But now, because of the EVV system, I had to close down. They said that it's a program that's called IRIS, where I can literally go in and work for them as them being my employee. I think that's the right word. I'm the employer. I think that's the employer. But I would be working for them. And they decided that they would go into Iris, the people that I care for. And we did find out by Iris, they said that they could not hire me because I am a felon, even though I have worked for these people for over a decade and longer. So they said that they cannot hire me because I'm a felon.
Thank you.
Any further questions from the board? Well, Carol, thanks for speaking with us today. As you heard me mention to Dr. House, we'll be making a determination here whether to forward your application to Governor Evers, and you should hear about the final determination one way or the other in the next few weeks, but hope you have a good weekend.
Oh, can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
Can you see me? Because I can see you, but can you see me?
Nope, we can't see you.
Oh, because I have the computer on and it didn't work.
Yeah, I think there's a little video icon in your lower left-hand corner, and you can click on that, and then it should turn your camera on.
Oh, I didn't know that. Well,
Yep.
I'm not very good at this sort of thing.
Yep. That's
So I have to wait. So I have to wait a couple of weeks to hear from you to see if you guys would pardon me.
correct. Yep.
Oh,
But you'll
Okay.
hear from us in the near future. But I really appreciate you taking your time to meet with us today.
okay. Thank you.
All right, and so our next applicant we're going to be hearing from, and Richard, I apologize, I'm going to mispronounce your name a little bit here, but Didzianskowski. I hope I'm saying that somewhat correctly. So Richard, you can just unmute yourself.
Tell me one more time, Rachel. Video filter? What if I do video filter? What about this?
I did. All I have to do is hang up now.
Hi, Richard, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
All right. Richard, can you pronounce your last name for me?
The name is John Jakowski.
Dichkowski. Sounds good.
Yes,
Well,
it's pronounced like a man's name, John Jakowski.
perfect. Well, with a long last name myself, I can empathize with. Well, Richard, thanks for meeting with us. As you've seen from the previous few applicants, we want to hear from you in your own words about your felony conviction and what's occurred since then. So please proceed.
Okay, thanks for hearing my case. I've been trying to do this for a while, but so anyways, growing up without a father, I grew up with issues. And at that time of my life, we're going to teen bars quite a bit and naturally getting drunk. And on the way back, we had stopped at the urinate, we stopped at the service station, and I'm in the back urinating, I see the window open, I went in and did some stupid stuff. We didn't break nothing, I think I put a key ring in my pocket, and that was it. That was my felony. And I didn't know nothing about attorneys. I believe I had one, I don't remember. Since then, I went through a couple of issues, a couple of years where I was rambunctious, but since then I've become a union steam fitter. I retired from steam fitting at the age of 60, so that's 14 years ago. In the meantime, I married my wife, and we had I helped raise 4 children. Yeah, it was a stupid mistake on my part, and I regret doing it, and really haven't been in trouble since.
Richard, so why are you seeking a pardon?
I've been trying to get my wife and my ma. I've been trying to, because me and my mother came here from Poland when I was 6. And my mom became a citizen and wanted me to go with her. And me being a type of person, I want to do everything myself. And I never did it. And this has always been a hindrance because I figured, well, you're really not going to be wanted if you have a criminal record. So that's my whole goal. I lost my wife in the meantime, but I still have her backing, push me along, get this. And unfortunately before Governor Ewers became governor, there was no pardon granted. So I've been in limbo for a number of years already. So that's my goal before I get too old.
Sounds good. Do members of the board have questions for Richard? Jeff?
Good morning, sir. It's not so much a question as I just wanted to point out on your application, you indicated that one of the reasons you wanted to get this pardon was so you could vote in state and local elections. And I just wanted to make sure you understood that there's nothing stopping you from voting. The fact that you have a felony conviction in Wisconsin does not prohibit you from voting. So you are eligible to vote.
Well, that was not being a citizen, I thought, stopped me from voting. I'm still a Polish citizen.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, that would be a problem.
That's why I always helped my mother and my wife. It's always been an interest of mine, but I could never do it myself.
So you'd have to get a pardon, plus you'd have to get the U.S. citizenship.
Right, and that's my goal, is to go for that.
I got it. All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? All right, well, appreciate you sharing your story with us, Richard. As I told the previous applicants, you'll hear from us in the next few weeks in terms of the final determination of this process.
Okay, thank everybody for your time.
Thank you. All right, our next applicant we'll be hearing from is Eric Lunsdale.
Hello.
Morning, Eric. Well, you've seen how this works now, so I will hand things over to you in order to share your story with us. So please proceed.
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity. So back in 2004, I was renting a house with my brother and his girlfriend at the time and another roommate. And we had this terrible idea to grow marijuana in our basement to save money. A couple months down the line, our fourth roommate, we evicted him because he wasn't paying his rent. And then a few months after that, a confidential informant was sent into our house, and then the police raided our house and arrested us and charged us with manufacture and distribution of THC. And I was sentenced to 5 days in county jail with work release, license suspended for 6 months, and then 2 years probation, all of which I served successfully without any issues at all. Since then, in the last 17 years, I've been married. It'll actually be 12 years on Sunday that I've been married. I have a 10-year-old daughter. I have a 6-year-old son. Pretty much live the typical dad life, I guess. I work a full-time job. I'm a salesman at the local lumber yard. I am the president of my church council. I volunteer around the community as much as I can. And really the reason I'm looking for a pardon is being president of the church council, I'm really enjoying, and I'm considering possibly running for the school board or the town board at some point, which I can't do if I have a felony. And yeah, that's a really fast version of my story.
Sounds good, and congratulations on the anniversary. Do members of the board have questions for Mr. Lunsdale? Cindy?
Good morning, Mr. Lunsdale.
Good morning.
Your statement in your application, you basically say that the roommate decided it would be a good idea to grow plants. You should have stopped him, but you didn't. And then after he was evicted, you say the police showed up. The plants had not been cared for some time, but they were still there. That statement really differs from the criminal complaint. And I'm having trouble reconciling those two things, because the criminal complaint says that both of you two roommates and yourself admitted that you were continuing to water them, you were turning lights on. I mean, it was an active operation. Am I right?
I honestly don't know. I had no part. I take responsibility in the fact that I didn't stop it. I never maintained anything. So yeah,
That's not what your roommates said at the time that the police searched your home. And in fact, it's not what you said. In fact, they say that you got the seeds from California to
that's
start
true.
the.
Yep, I did.
So I'm just struggling a little bit with your statement in your application is, geez, these old plants were in the basement and we forgot about them. And that really is not what the search information from the police or your own testimony or the witnesses' testimonies say in the criminal complaint. How do you reconcile those two things for us?
I'm not really sure. I mean, I had no part in maintaining the plants. My brother may have. The roommate was evicted. My attorney had told us, and this, never mind, it's beside the point. But I honestly had no part. So if they were, I don't know.
The female roommate, and I don't want to belabor this, but I'm just reading the criminal complaint. The female roommate stated that she, along with you and your brother, and I'm quoting, had an equal hand in growing the marijuana plants in the basement. And she went on to say that you two had done the actual planting, but she helped water the plants and that there were lights that went on at 11:30 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. and she assisted with turning the lights on and off, and that this was a whole operation that the three of you were actively involved in caring for those plants.
I guess I don't really know how to respond. I guess it's a matter of she said one thing and I disagree with what she said.
Go
ahead. I'm sorry.
Nadia?
Mr. Alonso, I'm going to ask a question, and it's if you remember. Do you happen to remember whether you or your attorney stipulated to the exact facts that were in your complaint, or if you made any other type of statement during your guilty plea?
I don't understand the question. I'm sorry.
Sure. So it's getting to the question that Ms. O'Donnell had just asked you. So when someone enters the guilty plea, you stipulate to particular facts, which means that you agree to particular facts for the basis of your guilty plea, right? So sometimes you do that based on what's in the criminal complaint, or sometimes you may make a statement about what you think the facts are for the basis of your guilty plea. So I think I'm asking if you remember if you did something like that or not.
I don't recall if I did or not. I'm sorry.
Any further questions from the board? All right, well, thank you for speaking with us, Mr. Lonsdale. As I told the previous applicants, you'll hear about our final determination in the next few weeks, but have a good weekend.
All right, thank you, you too.
All right, and our next applicant that we'll hear from, Demetrius Jackson.
I'm here.
Okay. Thanks for meeting with us, Mr. Jackson. So if you've heard how we've done this now with several people, so if you could just start off by explaining the circumstances that led to your felony conviction and what you've done since then in order to earn a chance of getting a pardon.
Back in 1998, I was caught with drugs in my possession. Guess I was just being a follower at the time, not really knowing what I was getting involved with. As you see, it didn't work out, got caught. And since then, that taught me a lesson. I never got in trouble ever since then. I've been on the straight and narrow path. Monday, I'll be 42 years old. I'm a father of 6 with 2 who are in college. I've been working for Abbott Food Service for 5 years now. I want to get this part in order to help me escalate my income, make more, be able to help out my family a little bit more. Weekends, I usually sell dinners. I'm looking forward to try to get me a food truck and start me a little business and just try to get financially ahead a little bit. That pretty much sums up for me.
Thanks, Mr. Jackson. Do members of the board have questions for Mr. Jackson? Jerry?
A couple of questions, Mr. Jackson. You had an interesting phrase in your application that you want a pardon to, you want to help hold up my end of society. I thought that was really an interesting phrase. And then you said you're in a community who adores me, but you have no letters of support or any indication of that support. Can you talk a little bit about what you meant by that?
Well, when I was talking to the district attorney, he had me, we kind of like sat down, talked for a while. We went over mutual people that we knew. And so he said that he was gonna ask around and talk to a few people. So that's probably what stopped me from kind of going to them, getting letters or word from them or whatnot. I didn't even think about that at the time. But yeah, like I said, in my community, I sell dinners on the weekend. We usually have like block parties on our block. For our community, used to be a homeless shelter right around the corner from me. We used to feed them. You know, I just help out as much as I can, especially with the kids, sports or whatever they're into. I try to volunteer as much as I can, but I work in Illinois, so it's kind of hard for me to get back in time on some of the situations. But they're there. If they need anything, I'm always there for them. So I'm sorry I didn't get letters or anything, but.
And you've had a lot of problems with non-support. Can you talk about that?
Yes. Well, having this felony is kind of hard. Back then, it was hard getting a job and pretty much commuting back and forth because I didn't have any license. They took all of that from me. So once I got a little bit back in tune and ahead of myself, I was able to get everything back, and now I'm trying my best to get ahead of that situation myself.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
So, good morning, Mr. Jackson.
Good morning.
You've mentioned and I see in your application you're seeking a pardon to better yourself in the food service industry. Is there a particular job that you're looking for that a pardon would help? What is the actual barrier that you're dealing with?
Well, over these 5 years working there, I gained a lot of experience in the kitchen. Actually, I didn't finish school, but I did a few semesters in culinary arts, and I gained a lot of knowledge. So, you know, my community there, like I said, I cook dinners on the weekend, barbecue, and all of that, and you know, they actually like my food. So, like I said, I'm working towards getting my own food truck and try to do the best I can to provide good food for the community and help my kids get through college.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions from the board? Well, thanks for meeting with us today, Mr. Jackson. As you've heard me say a couple times now, we'll be making a determination later this morning once we hear from the other applicants, and you'll hear the final determination of this whole process in the next few weeks. But I appreciate your time and hope you have a good weekend.
All right. Thank you. You all have a good morning.
Thank you. All right, and next up we have Edward Lantvit. So Edward, looks like you're with us by video. If you wouldn't mind unmuting yourself. There we go. Well, you've seen how this works, so the floor is yours, Edward, in terms of explaining your story and why you believe you've earned a chance at receiving a pardon.
Well, good morning to the board. October 2nd, 1989, I was involved. I knew a couple of guys that had money, and I knew the guy that knew a guy in Milwaukee that had the pot and put things together, and I knew fully what I was doing.
Looks like we're having a little bit of a video issue with.
Pardon?
Oh, it looks like you just froze up some. So you froze for just a minute. So if you wouldn't mind just starting over, and if we'll see if it works. And then if that doesn't work and we still have connection problems, sometimes turning your video off will help.
Okay. October 2nd, 1989, I knew two guys that had money that wanted some pot. And I knew a guy that had the pot in Milwaukee. Went down there. Like I said, I knew exactly what I was doing. I take full responsibility for what I did. It was a sting operation, got arrested. Now, I'd like to say it was the best, worst thing that happened to me. The worst thing is being handcuffed, incarcerated, and being away from my wife and kids. The best thing is it definitely turned my life around, big time. I don't think I'd be where I'm at today if it wouldn't be for that. My attorney was very adamant about turning somebody in, which I did do, and it did reduce my sentence, and it discontinued any relationships I had with those people, which was a good win-win situation. Served my time. Had 18-month sentence, did 8 months incarcerated, went through a 10-week drug and alcohol program, which I thought was very helpful. 10 months on parole, which everything went smoothly. I just wanted to get back to my family. Got out in 91, got a job delivering LP gas, read up on some about buying homes with little or no money down, and started investing in some rental properties. Went to school in 93 to be a real estate appraiser. In 96, started my own business, Lantvit Real Estate Appraisals Incorporated, which I still am active.
Looks like we're having some audio problems, Edward.
Or I guess, go ahead.
Oh, I think it might work best if you turn off your video. I think we're having some connection issues. And if you turn off the video by clicking the little camera icon in the lower left-hand corner, it should clear it up. All right.
Turn it back on now?
No, I would keep it off. It helps with the connection sometimes. So we can hear you much better now.
Okay. So bought some properties what I could afford through the years, which I own 6 rental properties right now, and it helps for my retirement, supplement my retirement. Still do appraisals yet. I don't know if you heard, I got state license in 1997, state license appraiser, which I'm very proud of. So still in business today, except we just kind of turned things around a little bit. My son took over as president. I'm the vice president, and I'm just doing it part-time basically because I'm semi-retired. Since then, I guess the best thing that happened, it just turned my life to the good, got me back on track. Don't know if I'd be where I'm at today if it wouldn't have been for that day. It's October 2nd, 1989. I've got nothing. That's the only thing on my record. Never had anything before or after. It's 30 years ago. I'd like to probably, if I got a pardon, I would probably run for village board to get more active in the community, which I can't hold now. I guess that's about it.
So you were 36 when this occurred, correct?
I believe 37.
37?
Yeah.
And, you know, the purchase, I mean, it was a enormous purchase, right? It was for 30 pounds of marijuana.
Well, what they say 30, it was right around there. You might say yes,
Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah.
How long had you been purchasing and dealing before then?
Oh boy. I'd have to say probably my later 20s or so. You know, I was always, just got off on with the wrong people. And that's why I think turning people in just really was a big thing, just to knock off that relationship between those people, period. And it's been smooth ever since then. It's been nothing but good.
Okay. Do members of the board have questions for Mr. Lanvitt? Cindy?
Good morning.
Good morning.
You have 14 grandchildren? Is that
Well,
right?
yes, actually 12 and 2.
Okay.
Yeah, but yes, 12. But
They
anyway.
all count, right? I just wanted to make first a comment. There was absolutely a beautiful letter from your granddaughter, Madison, and I hope you read that and keep that.
I did.
You were denied a pardon back in 2004. And some of those factors obviously have changed, like the recentness of the offense. I mean, that was 17 years ago.
Exactly.
But you were also pardoned based on a lack of need and the seriousness of the offense. What's different? What should this board view differently about those two factors?
I think just how I changed my life around just for the good. And that I'm getting older, I guess is my last hurrah. I would like to kind of go out with a clean slate if possible. And like I said, I would like to get a little more involved with the village board. I live in a small community, Fremont, obviously, and that's about it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the board? Well, thanks, Edward, for meeting with us this morning. I'm glad we were able to get through the technical issues. It is a little bit of a challenge with doing this by Zoom, but it also means that spares folks from having to drive down to Madison. So appreciate your time with us and hope you have a good weekend.
Thank you. Thank you for your time also.
Next up on our agenda, we will be going to Michael Turner. All right, looks like you're already on video. So Mike, you've seen how this works so far. So if you can please proceed with sharing your story with us.
Hello, good morning. Thanks for having me. So I'm a Racine native. My name's Michael Turner. I'm 42 years old. My conviction was conspiracy to manufacture cocaine. So at the time I was living in Florida with my daughter's mother at the time. And I was going through a lot of stuff with her, just back and forth. I feel like I was chasing her around the country and whatnot. And the reason why I had left with her is because she had a son by another gentleman, and he didn't know about his son at all. And I just, kept telling her she needed to let him know. So I didn't really know too much about her past and whatnot. And pregnant, she was trying to flee to her state and just have another life there. And I did not want that. I wanted to be a part of my daughter's life. So I went It was kind of rough, but like I said, I was able to see my daughter be born and whatnot. It felt there was a lot of stuff that was behind the curtain that she wasn't telling me, paternity test wise, just certain things that were entitled to a father that I didn't feel like I was getting. So at that time, we were in Florida, and my whole purpose was to go down there and get a paternity test and maybe try to make it work one more time, just so I could be in her life. So turned out that it did not work. So when I came back, I needed money for lawyers. I didn't know what to do. Like I said, I needed money for lawyers, and I didn't know how to do it. And like I said, I was out and about one evening and speaking with just some friends that I had known from the past, and they had brought up an easy way just to, make some money. And I was like, you know what? The gears were turning in my mind, and I was like, you know what? I can just get in here, get some money from my lawyer, and do what I need to do, and at least get my paternity test established, and just share my case so I could be, established in my daughter's life. Because it was like every time I try to get closer and she would find out that I was getting a lawyer or just, paperwork together, it was like she would try to run away or something like that. So it was just like, I got to do something. I got to do it quick. So like I said, I ended up selling and got the money for the lawyer, made it all work out, got my paternity test established and everything. But then after that, I got greedy. And after that, I ended up earning myself an incarceration. After I did my incarceration, which I went through the boot camp and everything in St. Croix with Captain Grady, which is probably the best program in this state. I recommend it to anybody. I still use the tools to this day. Like right now, I still use the tools from that program. And and after, when I came home, there was some issues with her mother to where as she couldn't take care of her. So from 2007 to I think 2014, I took care of my daughter all by myself. I did the doctor bills. I took my daughter to school. I was in her programs. I just did everything that a parent would do. I don't look at myself as a single mother or a single father. I look at myself as a parent that was doing what I needed to do and whatnot. So after that time, so probably about 2009, I finally got discharged from papers and whatnot. And since then, like I said, I do some nonprofit organizations here and there. I like to speak every now and then. My brother is a dean out in for off the top of my head, but every once in a while, if he runs into a troubled youth and whatnot, he tries to have me come, speak for them. Because, when I was told in that boot camp that, out of the 15 people that were in my squad, that only 2 of you are going to make it and beat the statistics of coming out and being a productive citizen in the community. And I strived out of my way to do that. And also, I think it was 2017, where they had passed a statute for if you met the criteria, you were released from parole early. And I had met that criteria. So my sentence was 3 years and 4 years out. And with having the boot camp shed a year off that time. So when I came home, it was 5 years that I would have had to have done. And then, like I said, my parole only ended up lasting 3 years instead of the 5 years. So right now, like I said, everything that I've done has been a change for the better, a better dad, a better man, just in general. Like I said, to everything that I do, I no longer associate myself with anybody or anything that I've done. And I know if I didn't get caught, I know probably I would still be doing that or, whatever else. But like I said, what I did, I look at it as a blessing in disguise. And I did everything that I could do to possibly fight for my daughter. And like I said, without that, I don't think I would have been able to take care of my daughter. So like I said, just being able to take care of my daughter for all those years and not ask for any handouts and not say anything was deserved to me or anything like that. I was just doing what a parent's supposed to do, to help my child. So, at the end of the day, for her, I want to show her that, yeah, you do make mistakes. And if you pay your debt to society or whatever and take on your full responsibility, that good things can happen. Like I said, I want to continue to be doing speakers and helping out here and there with what I can out in the community. I want to show that, like hard work, even though you do make a mistake, that if you keep on trying and keep on, that good things can come to you. The whole reason why I did this part is because about 2 years ago, we went down, me and some friends of mine took a motorcycle ride down to Kentucky. And I can't remember, it's on the border of Kentucky and Tennessee, but there's a military base there. And not thinking anything of it or him, we went down there to visit his sister and her husband on the base. Well, the first night that we got to the base, I was checked in, everything was registered. So a few days later, when we went to re-register for the 3-day pass, the officer that was in there, I guess, had pulled my record and said, "You have a felony." And I was like, "Sir, this case is closed. Like, I've been discharged, off of paper and everything." And he said, "That doesn't matter." He goes, you are not allowed on this base." And I felt I had never been so embarrassed in my life. I'd never been so embarrassed. I literally had to go across the street with my bags and sit there until my friends packed up their belongings and everything with me because they had my back, and we ended up going to stay at a hotel. And then my buddy's family, he's a sergeant, ended up coming over with his wife with a crock pot full of food, which I thought was wonderful, and came and stayed in the hotel with us for the next few days. I thought that was just so incredible. And when I came back, I was like, you know what? I'm just living in this bubble of having this over my head and knowing that I've done so much as a person, as a parent, as a citizen, and just to feel like it's just, I need to move past this. I mean, it doesn't define me as a person at all of what I've become, but I need to make it right. And like I said, and just show that it can be done, with patience and just discipline and just being who you are. So.
Great. Thanks, Mr. Turner. Do members of the board have questions for him? Jeff?
Morning, sir. So how long were you selling cocaine in the community? You said you originally to get money for a lawyer, but then you sort of you enjoyed the lifestyle and kept doing it. So how long were you selling cocaine?
So I was selling for about 3 months. So I came back and it was probably about the year 2003 or 4. I came back from Florida, like I said, and then I had met with some friends. So probably in the middle of 2004 is when I had started.
You weren't caught until 2005, right?
Yeah, exactly. So about the middle of 2004 is when I had started. I was given the substance and I was told, here goes a phone, here goes the product, and just wait for the phone to ring. And I was like, okay. So I did what I had to do. Like I said, about a few months into it, I had the money for the lawyers, which was about ranged from about $1,500 to about $2,000. So when after I paid all the lawyer fees, I was still making a little bit of money, and I was like, man, this is easy money. Even though I'm done already, I'm like, this is easy money. And probably, like I said, within the next month, There was an informant that came in, and like I said, my house was then raided, and I was taken in, and I was incarcerated. So it was probably about 4 to 6 months that I was doing it to earn myself that money.
All right. Thank you.
Yes.
Jerry?
Paul, your devotion to your daughter is really admirable. And I've got two questions that are, I think, related. First of all, how's your daughter doing now?
My daughter is doing wonderful. She lives in Florida. Crazy to think. She lives in Florida now with her mother.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
When did that happen?
So that happened probably about 6 months ago. So my daughter was living with me, like I said, until she was about 14 years old. Then it was about that time where she was able to make her own decision on where she wanted to stay. Like I said, and her mom was coming in and out of the picture. I didn't want her to stay with her mom. I didn't mind her visiting her mother, but I didn't want her to be around her mother because her mother had a past of her own. So once her mother started coming around more and I seen that she was starting to do better for herself, I didn't mind that she was staying with her mother a little bit more. I still wanted to have the half custody, and that's where I had went. But then again, my daughter hadn't been around her mother for 8 years on and off. So I didn't want to take away that mother-daughter relationship. But then again, I didn't want my daughter to go anywhere anyways. So when my daughter got to 15, 16, she was missing out on those qualities that a mother and daughter lack. So I tried to fight it for a little while, but like I said, I mean, my daughter's, she's 20 years old now. And it's, I can only argue it so much on where she had. So, I mean, I kept her bedroom set in her bedroom and everything until she turned 18. And she said, "Dad, can I have my bedroom set? I want to live with mom full time." And I was, okay, I can't do anything else but let you go. You're an adult now. So, and that's what I did. And a couple years later, her mom had always been talking about moving back to Florida. So they moved back, and I keep in contact with her, and I haven't got a chance to visit her since then, but yeah, that's what's going on right now.
Okay. I understand your devotion to your daughter. The DA in Racine opposes your pardon because she said that you were responsible for putting poison into our community. Can you talk a little bit about that idea?
Okay. So the first time I went for this petition in August of 2013, when I tried to, because I was actually going through, I was actually trying to get I forgot what was it? Because I needed to get a passport. Because I needed to get a passport at the time, and I wasn't able to get a passport because my daughter's mother had been incarcerated at the time, and I wanted to get a passport, and I was having so much trouble with it. That was the first time that I went for that petition because it was like I felt like I was doing the time with her. So when she had mentioned that, when she had mentioned the poison in the community, and like I said, I didn't understand it. I didn't look at it that way. I looked at it like my number one devotion, or however it took, was to get money for this lawyer because my daughter's mom wasn't giving me a paternity test. She wasn't giving me what I was entitled to as a father. My rights at all were gone. They weren't even on the table in her eyes. She didn't care. So at the time, my main focus was to get the monies for my lawyer so I could pay just to get even the paternity test established that she was denying me of. So when she said that, it was like, you're right. I wasn't looking at it like that. I had a different agenda over here. I wasn't looking at the poison and the poison that I was setting into these parents and their kids and their families, if anything had happened to them, because I was thinking about myself and my situation and my child. So when she says poison in the community, yeah, when you look at it like that, yeah, you're right. I was doing it, but I also wasn't thinking straight like that. I was thinking about my child.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for meeting with us this morning, Mr. Turner. As I told the previous applicants, you'll hear from us in the near future about the board's determination and if your application is forwarded to Governor Evers, his determination.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye now.
All right. Next up, we have on our agenda, Malcolm Wilson. So Malcolm, if you wouldn't mind turning your camera on and unmuting yourself.
Hello.
Hi, Malcolm. Well, thanks for meeting with us today. As you've heard from the last several applicants, now is your opportunity to share your story with us.
Okay. In 1993, I was unemployed and I was going through a divorce. I had custody of my two sons who were 5 and 8 at the time, and I applied for public assistance. That was going to help me buy food and pay rent. I later got a job, but I failed to report the job within the 10 days, and I was charged with public assistance fraud. So I didn't know of the 10-day rule at the time. I wouldn't have done that if I did. I was just doing that to help support my children. Like I said, I was a single dad. I had my sons with me, full custody of them. In the meantime, I've repaid all the restitution, over $6,000. I've been married, remarried. I have 4 sons and a daughter. They're all doing very well, and they're productive. I just like an opportunity to just go ahead and, be made whole and receive all my rights back again. I feel like I've paid everything I should have paid back. I've never been in any other trouble since then. I worked for the school board for 20 years. I retired from there. I went back to work with the city of Milwaukee, and I'm working with them now. I feel like this felony conviction hanging over my head after I paid all my debts and everything. I feel like I'd like to ask the board to consider, relieving me of that. So, like I say, I'm working now, gainfully employed again, but they do have rules where they can, without cause, if you have a felony, you could be terminated. Now, I want to relieve that kind of thing hanging over my head that I could be terminated at any time because of the old felony. It's been 27 years, like I said. I've been doing everything I can, being a good citizen. I'm raising my children. They've been very well. They've been doing good, graduating from school. I have 2 in school now, doing virtual schooling. My daughter's 11. My youngest son is 17. They live with me now with my wife. My wife works. And I just like the opportunity to, be made whole again and receive my rights if it could be at all possible.
Thanks, Mr. Wilson. Questions from the board? Jeff?
Hey, good morning, Mr. Wilson. Mr. Wilson, can you tell me about the counseling you did through Nevermore? Why did you take part in that counseling program?
That program was there was an incident that I had a long time ago where there was an argument with a girlfriend before I got married. And, you know, no one got hurt during that, but however, they felt that if I did that program, they could go ahead and drop the charges that were there at the time. So I went through that program, and it was successful, and those charges did get dropped.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the board? Well, Mr. Wilson, thanks for meeting with us this morning, and you'll hear the final determination of this process in the next few weeks, but hope you have a good weekend.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank
Have
you.
a great day.
Take care, you too.
Bye now.
All right, we're just getting down to the last few applicants of our first half of this morning's session. So next we will be moving to Sandra Gorham. So Sandra. All right, well, you've seen how this has worked several times, so now is your opportunity to share your story with us and explain why you believe you've earned the chance to receive a pardon.
Thank you everyone for being here. Good morning. And I appreciate the opportunity. I'm grateful regardless of the outcome. So my story really is one of addiction. From a very young age, probably about 6th grade, struggled with addiction. I would say that I was kind of, you know, my parents did great, but they had a mentally disabled child as well as me. So you know, their focus just took a lot of, you know, she took a lot of attention. So I was just kind of left. I was a really good kid until about 6th grade, you know, and they thought I was always okay. So I was kind of left on my own a lot of the time. I slept over at friends' houses a lot of the time, and started kind of with drinking in the 6th grade. And I just remember thinking back on that very early on, I had no control over my using or drinking. Like I just would go overboard every time, the first time. So that just progressed as I got older and through high school. And, you know, eventually led to opiate addiction. And it was a time when kind of that was becoming really a big thing. And OxyContin was everywhere. And really the people I hung out with, we all, you know, were doing those things and trying it together. So leading then into my conviction for my felony possession charge, I you know, was driving that day down to Milwaukee to get drugs. Well, actually I was on the way home and it was late at night and just stopped at a gas station. The worker at the gas station like noticed how noticeably high my boyfriend and I were, and she called the police, I believe he or she. So that's what led to my charge. I then was between my DUI and my conviction, I got 60 days in Huber and then 2 years of probation. So, you know, I would like to say like, oh, I just immediately got clean, but I didn't. I did the 60 days in Huber. Unfortunately, I was prescribed a lot of these pain medications, so I was able to continue to take them in Huber. So that was not enough time there to like clear my mind up at all. In fact, I got out of jail and was handed all of my prescriptions. So I kept using for about a month and a half. And my probation agent then kind of knew, and my mom kept calling her and telling her. And so anyway, my probation agent called me and it was March 8th of 2011. And I knew like, she's going to drug test me. I'm in big trouble. So I mean, that's the day my whole life changed. She had me do a program at Techeetah that was a 16-week ATR program. So I didn't get revoked, but I had to wait in jail for about 4 months to get into that program. So I was there then. So March 8th, I went in, and then I got out of Techeetah December 16th. I would say that was the start of, absolutely my sobriety. I've been sober ever since then. March 10th, I say, is my sobriety date because I was so under the influence when I went in. But anyway, I had 10 years this Wednesday sober. After prison, thank you. After prison, I'm so nervous. But after prison, as I was in there, I knew I had nowhere good to go. I had no people. I mean, I had my family, but I didn't want to just go to my parents' house. So I started looking into my mom and I into where could I go leaving prison. So the day that I left, I went to Casa Clare, which is a women's residential treatment in Appleton. I ended up there. I stayed there then about 7.5 months through their inpatient like housing, halfway house, and then apartments. So it was enough where like I slowly could build my life up in a safe environment, and very grateful. Sorry.
Take your time.
I went to school I started school while I was there in the accounting program at Fox Valley Tech. So then where do I go back? Okay, so after eventually I started working at Casa Clare as a house manager for the women's for other women. So I'm kind of like the touch point. I kind of would keep an eye on the house, and I went to school for accounting while I was doing that. And then in 2015 graduated with my associate's degree in accounting. At that time, we kind of had a partner organization, Step Industries, that did vocational rehabilitation for people with addiction issues. So I did my accounting internship there for my boss, Michelle, who's the CEO now. And she hired me after my internship to do the accounting and business managing. So I'm still there. We've actually, those two organizations have merged. We're one big organization now, Apricity. We have residential treatment and vocational programming, sober living, all of these great programs. And I've now been continuing on to get my bachelor's degree in accounting. I got promoted to financial controller. And I think, so my goal, I have 4 classes left for the bachelor's program. After this semester. 2 of those are electives. So ideally, I would take 2 electives that would go towards the master's program. But the master's program is leading to a CPA, a certified public accountant, which is something that as a felon I cannot, it's a license I cannot have as a felon. I think, obviously I don't know exactly what the future holds. In my ideal world, having that CPA would really help in my position that I have currently, and it would help lead me to eventually being the chief financial officer and having more involvement with our board. As we grow and get bigger, I think just me having all of that knowledge would be really helpful for us as an organization. And if I were ever to seek employment elsewhere, I think it would be extremely hard having a felony in accounting. So that's my primary motivation.
Okay. Great. Thanks, Ms. Gorham. Do members of the board have, and congratulations, by the way, on your 10-year anniversary. This is quite the accomplishment. Do members of the board have questions for her? Jeff?
Good morning. Just a comment. I did watch your YouTube interviews with you and your mother. I thought they were quite powerful and as powerful as anything you said this morning. So thank you for sharing that with us. Good luck.
Jerry?
I agree with Jeff, and the video was great. It was from 2014, is that right?
That sounds right, yes.
Yeah, and there was talk about this nice guy you had met and stuff like that. Can you kind of update the video?
Yeah, my husband. So we got married in August of 2014. So we've been married over 6 years now. He's in recovery also. He owns his own business doing tree removal, and he loves it. but we've both really changed our lives. We have a son who turned 3 on March 8th, and that's the day I went to jail way back when. And now here I am on the same week with you guys. So I'm a little bit of a mess, but we have a great life. And I think I wrote in there, but I have said a million times, had this not happened to me, this felony, I maybe wouldn't be here. You know, the path I was on was terrible, and I probably would have died, you know, of an overdose or something. So if I have to live with it, then I have to live, you know, then I'm okay with that. But it is kind of holding me back in a few ways now. So.
Well, congratulations on sobriety and your son's birthday and everything.
Any other questions? Any other questions from the board? Well, my son is turning 3 later this month. It's a good month for little boys turning 3. Any other questions from the board? Oh, thanks, Sandra. As you heard me say to the previous applicants, you'll be hearing from us in the not too distant future, but hope you have a good weekend.
You too. Thank you all.
Thanks. All right, and we have one more applicant before we move on to the next group of people. And I think so we'll be hearing from Chris Walters. So Chris, looks like you're with us. So if you wouldn't mind, you've seen how this works. So if you wouldn't mind proceeding with sharing your story with us, and then we'll have a few questions. And then we'll probably take about a 5 to 10 minute break for the board and before we admit everybody for the next session. So Chris, please proceed.
Excellent, thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Chris Walters and I'm 49 years old. I live in Colorado with my wife and 2 children. I really appreciate all your time today. About 2 years prior to my arrest, 6-year relationship I had been in ended. She'd been my high school crush. She'd waited for me while I went off to boot camp and served my time in the Navy. I'd hoped it was leading to our marriage, and when she left, it absolutely devastated me. I started making some really bad decisions, started spending time drinking in bars, using marijuana and cocaine to escape the reality I'd somehow created for myself. On the night of my arrest, June 25th, 1999, I'd been out drinking and selling a little cocaine to support my habit and my phony lifestyle. When I left the bar that night, I was initially pulled over for an expired registration, which then led to the officer finding that I was in possession of cocaine and marijuana. On June 2nd of 2000, I was sentenced to 10 years of probation, had my driver's license suspended for 6 months, and as a condition of my probation, I was to serve the first 9 months at the Huber Center. I was really sad about what I'd done and the shame I'd brought on my family and friends. At that time, the only bright spot in my life was my girlfriend, Wendy. We'd only met a few months prior to my arrest, and she had no idea I'd been using or selling cocaine. Instead of judging me, she told me she would wait for me until I got out, and she visited me in jail as often as she was allowed to. While I was at Huber, I worked a building maintenance job at a local realty company and also took college classes at the downtown MATC campus. I can tell you the exact moment things changed for me. And when I woke up to the harm I'd caused and was still causing. I was riding my bike back to the Huber Center from school, and I was due back in about 10 minutes, and I ran into Wendy. She was looking for me because she knew the route I'd be traveling with my bike. She was in tears. She'd just been involved in a traffic accident. Another driver had ran a red light and T-boned her on the driver's side. She wasn't seriously injured, but I could do nothing to console her. I could do nothing to help her as I had to be back at Huber in minutes. Here was a woman doing everything she could to be there for me, and now when she needed me the most, I couldn't be there for her. I couldn't be there because of my own actions. And that moment cut me deep, and it's the moment that changed me. I poured my focus into the classwork and eventually was rewarded with a letter sent on my birthday in 2001 saying I had made the dean's list. I was released from Huber for good conduct a few months early and placed on home supervision with an ankle monitor. 2003, Wendy and I decided to make the dreams we shared and talked about a reality. I applied to have my probation transferred to Colorado, and after it was accepted, we began our journey. We moved to a beautiful small town in the Central Mountains, and both of us made it work by having 3 jobs at a time. I started my own home maintenance and contracting business and took on some local property managers as clients. 2006, Wendy and I were married. And in 2008, I was released from probation 2 years early, as I had had no further offenses, no failed drug or alcohol tests, and I had been gainfully employed the entire time. Since my release from probation, I've devoted myself to growing our two businesses and being the best husband and father I can be. Wendy and I just purchased our dream home last August, and I'm fully focused on raising our two boys, 12-year-old Devin and 7-year-old Daniel, both of whom I have thoroughly enjoyed time with during this pandemic. I have the pleasure of being their home teacher while our school district practices distance learning. It has definitely been a wonderful and a blessing. So this brings us to why I'm now asking for a pardon. In the 22 years since my arrest, I have committed no other crimes, and I've lived my life constantly trying to prove myself in the lives of those around me. I would like to possibly hunt again and be the one to teach my boys a proper respect for firearms. I would like to be able to freely travel internationally with my family through our rental business, and I'm seeking this pardon to put that chapter of my life behind me. Though I made some extremely bad decisions, ones I will always be sorry for and ashamed of, I do not feel those decisions are a reflection of who I have become. I have been a felon for 22 years. The weight of that has been more of a sentence than the jail time or probation ever was. I want to be able to show my boys that bad decisions do not need to define us. We have to be willing to put in the work to make the necessary changes. And that basically explains how and why I feel things happened as they did. Once again, I want to thank you all for your time and consideration.
Thanks, Mr. Walters. Do members of the board have questions? Jerry?
With the board's indulgence, Chris, I have some personal questions.
Yes, sir.
I know Ponca Springs really well and Salida really well. My
Lovely
family had a place up on Chalk Creek in Alpine for
Yes.
years. And I think I rented a bike maybe from you at Ontario Cyclery.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So,
Wow.
and
Wow,
how is,
small world.
yeah, how is the vacation rental business?
We started our business a few years back, sir, and it is absolutely booming.
Well, but during this last year, I mean.
Yeah, we actually thought we'd have a serious downturn, and it actually was the opposite. People from Colorado Springs and the Front Range decided to get out of the city and come to their small town. We're less than 6,000 people here in Salida and Poncha Springs, and so a lot of we had to follow a lot of county health mandates, and change a couple things, but for the most part, we've stayed fairly busy, and that led to us being able to buy our house. And actually, because of COVID, we would have never even seen this house. It was once my kids were out of school, my wife and the kids were bike riding through a neighborhood and found this house for sale by owner. And it's been looking really well. We're really happy here now.
Good. Well,
and as you know, Salida and Poncha Springs is a place that'll trap you if you're from Wisconsin.
I know that, and there are times when I really miss the mountains. So I apologize to the board for a few minutes of personal privilege.
Thank you, sir.
Ryan, you're muted.
There we go. Happens to the best of us, huh? So thanks for meeting with us, Chris. As you've heard from the previous applicants, you'll hear from the governor's office in terms of the determination of this process, but I appreciate you sharing your story with us and hope you have a good weekend out there in Colorado.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it, everybody.
And so it's 9:58. We are supposed to start. I'm going to be admitting the next group of individuals. I'll run through my quick spiel and then we'll take a 5-minute break for the board. So I'll just give people a minute to get connected.
How's it going?
All right, and so, all right, well, welcome everybody. My name is Ryan Elsistu and I'm chair of the Governor's Pardon Advisory Board. We are right on time, but we are going to take a little break here because we just finished up with our first part of our morning session. and we need to give board members a break. So we will be returning in 7 minutes at 10:05 a.m. At that time, I will go through a couple of housekeeping items. I'll introduce the board, and then we'll get things started with our first applicant. We'll be calling you in the order that you were listed on the public meeting notice for today. And just as a heads up, we'll be starting with Jody, and then Sandra, and then Jason, and then just going down in that order. And just one final thing, if you wouldn't mind just muting yourself, because we are having this streamed on YouTube and Wisconsin Eye. And so just to preserve audio quality and to make sure there isn't any unnecessary background noise or unintended comments spread on the internet, it'd be best to mute yourself. But we'll be back with you in 6 minutes. Thanks, everyone. All right, I think we'll get started and then I'll go through my housekeeping items and then hopefully we'll have the board members will be coming back with us here shortly. So again, thank you for joining with us. This is the March hearing for the Governor's Pardon Advisory Board. Governor Evers has tasked us with an important job, and that's to hear from each of you in your own words. We've all had a chance to review your application materials. And now is our opportunity to hear from you directly and ask you some questions to fill in a few blanks so that we can make recommendations to Governor Evers on whether or not we believe you have earned the chance at receiving a pardon from him. So the process here today is fairly straightforward. You've been already screened by the governor's office for eligibility. And now you're here before us. We'll take, when it is your turn, you'll have about 5 or 10 minutes to speak with the board. What we want to do is the governor's office sent you a letter in terms of questions or issues that we wanted you to address. But, you know, in summary, it's we want to hear how you ended up with a felony conviction and what happened afterwards and why you believe you've earned a chance at getting a pardon and why you believe you need a pardon. After we hear from each of you, we will be meeting in closed session as a board. During the closed session, we'll be discussing your personal histories and the information that we heard, and we'll be making recommendations to Governor Evers. If you receive support from a majority of board members, your application will be forwarded to Governor Evers. If you do not receive majority support from the members present, your application will be denied and you'll have an opportunity to hear or to reapply in 18 months from the date of denial. For those whose applications are forwarded to Governor Evers, he'll make a decision in his sole determination on whether or not to grant you a pardon. If he denies your pardon at that stage, then you will be, again, you'll be able to reapply within 18 months of the date of denial. Otherwise, if he does decide to grant a pardon, he will sign a pardon and you will receive, it will be sent to you. This whole process should play out in the next few weeks. So the longest portion of this process is behind you, and that's the wait for today in order to hear be in front of us. I'm going to go through, introduce our board members quickly. And so we have quite a few board members with us today. So we have Cindy O'Donnell. Cindy works for the Wisconsin Department of Corrections. She previously held a number of positions with the Wisconsin Department of Justice. We also have Myrna Warrington, who is a vocational rehabilitation director and is also a tribal council member. We have Noble Ray, who is the former chief of police for the Madison Police Department and now does racial and implicit bias training for law enforcement agencies across the world. We have Judge Jeff Kremers, who is a retired judge from Milwaukee County and the former chief judge of the First Judicial District. And we also have Nadia Perez-Reyes, who is a former public defender and is now the Assistant Deputy Secretary for the Wisconsin Department of Children and Families. And last and certainly not least, we have Reverend Jerry Hancock, who is the director of the Prison Ministry Project and a former state and county prosecutor. So with that, when I call you up, just be sure to unmute yourself. If your video is turned off, turn on your video. And the first person we have with us today will be Jody Polazinski. So Jody, there you are. And I apologize if I mispronounce anybody's name. So Jody, please proceed. Having a little bit of an audio problem with you, Jody. Nope. What might work, Jody, do you have a microphone on your computer? I think what we'll do is I'll have one of our assistants will call out and reach you, and we'll set up probably doing it via phone call so we can hear audio. And in the meantime, so Josephine, if you can just give Jody a call, that would be great. And Jody, we'll be right back with you. I'll go to the next applicant and we'll just go back to you as we get this cleared up. All right, and so I'm just gonna mute Jody, make sure I can have that phone call. Next we'll go to Sandra Vassell Swanigan. So Sandra. Sandra, I just need you to unmute yourself. Give Sandra just 1 minute here. Hi, Sandra. Can you hear us? Can you hear us, Sandra?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. So thanks for being with us, Sandra. So if you wouldn't mind just keeping yourself unmuted, because now is your opportunity to share your story with the Governor's Pardon Advisory Board. Looks like she muted herself again. All right, are you there, Sandra?
Yes.
All right. So now's your opportunity, Sandra, to share your story with us. So if you wouldn't mind proceeding, and then the members of the Pardon Advisory Board will have questions for you.
Well, good morning. Thanks for having me. My name is Sandra Vessel Swanigan, and I'm a mother of 2. The reason that I had got into a felony and for a long time didn't realize that I had one, for the simple reason when I was charged with not reporting the income that I was getting when I was on age, which was then realized in court that it was partially my fault. Because as I was going through classes, I had a worker and trying to better myself, being a young mother with 2 children, taking classes up. And in the meeting, I told the worker at that time that I was working and that should I report it to my case aide or would she do it? Well, she said, don't worry about it, I'll do it. So at that time, I left it alone. And during that particular time, they usually say, even if you're working, you'll receive 2 extra checks, and then it would be reduced from the amount that you're working. So I proceeded to work, then realized later that the school person that I told this to did not actually do her job in telling her that. So therefore, I was blamed for it. And I took my blame because I could have checked it out as well to make sure it was done. So by doing this, when I went to court, they had put me on 5-year probation with restitution. 2 weeks or a week later, the probation officer that I had looked into my case and said that this wasn't totally your fault. I don't believe that you should be on probation. You have no record. Would you like to go back to court? I said, yes, I would. We did that, and the judge agreed that he released the probation, no probation, and just pay the restitution, not all of it, because he deemed that all of it was not my fault, that only partial. So I did that, continue to be a model citizen, being encouraging to every young male and female that I meet, raise my children to be the joy and the jewel of my life, that by telling me that and saying how a strong woman I am. And like I told my son, it's because of going through things, you know. Sometimes you get bent, but you got to keep yourself up so you won't get broken. And that's where we are now. I'm still encouraging them to be the young man and lady they are, which I'm so proud of. I work with children with the school system, And even though I'm not their parent, I am a parent. So when I see things that's not done right, I try to instill them in that in an appropriate way and as much as I can by not being their parent. And I've been married to a long-time high school friend, about 6 years now. We are happy besides the fact that he has gotten ill and on dialysis and kind of sometimes don't really want to go through it or just be here because of the tired of all the things that he's been through. But by me continuing to being faithful in Christ and keeping myself encouraged, I keep him encouraged one day at a time. And that's how we're going to do it. And the reason that I want this pardon because to show him, as well as my children and grandchildren, anybody that just stand strong and just have faith and just believe. And I'm the kind of person that I walk by faith, and what I talk about is what I believe. And I don't comment or say anything to anybody. I'm a quiet spirit, but when I have something to say, I say it. And that's because I know about it. And that's what I have to say on this. And I appreciate you guys for listening.
Thanks, Sandra. Do members of the board have questions for her? Well, I think you're getting off easy today, Sandra. So appreciate you sharing your story with us and hope your husband does well. Sorry to hear about his medical challenges, but have a good weekend, and you'll be hearing from the governor's office in the not too distant future about the outcome of this process. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, and we will now try again with Jody. Jody, if you wouldn't mind unmuting yourself, and hopefully we'll be able to work out the audio this time.
Hi, can you hear me?
We certainly can.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for your patience. I'm not quite sure why it's not working, but yeah, good morning. Thank you so much, everyone, for your time, and Tony Evers for this consideration. It means everything to me. I've waited a very long time for this, so thank you so much.
Good. So the floor is yours. I'm glad we were able to get through the technical issues. You're not the first person, so don't worry about it. But please proceed.
Okay, thank you so much. I went to jail on February 2nd, 2005 on 34th and St. Paul. I grew up in that area. I was 19 years old. I went to jail for a few days, and I went to jail for possession with intent to deliver. Immediately after I got out of jail, I signed up for AODA classes with Robert Canoop. His organization's called Brighter Days. So I signed up for that right away. I got sentenced the same year. I believe it was August 1st of 2005. I was still 19 years old, and I was sentenced to 3 months of house arrest. I got 3 years of probation. I was assigned to community service, and they suspended, or I had my license suspended for 6 months as well. And during that time, I realized that I really messed up my life by being involved with the wrong people. I moved over to that neighborhood when I was about 14 years old, and I stayed in that area for quite some time. But after growing up and having different opportunities, I moved away from there. But when I was on probation, I did my community service at Merrill Park in my own neighborhood, where I, grew up in my teenage years. I completed that. I got a really great rapport with Robert Canoop and his AODA sessions. I went there. I completed what I needed to do. I believe it was, 6 months meeting with him, and I grew a very good rapport with him, as well as Kevin Martins was my probation officer. Kevin would even pick me up from work. They suspended my license for 6 months, so I took the bus, I parked my car. I made sure that I did everything the right way to try to correct my mistakes and do the right thing. I've worked very hard. I'm 35 years old now. I am a social media manager. I've been at my job now for this year will be 6 years. I have been working since I was 14 years old. My dad left me at a very young age, so I learned responsibility and you know, how to do the right thing, excuse me, as far as working and independence very young. I really have done everything I possibly can to try to leave that person in the past. I was 19 years old, and I know that's not an excuse. I am not an entitled person, but I have literally worked my whole life since this happened to not be that person, not be around drugs, not be around the wrong people. I removed myself from that neighborhood. And just recently, I have started my own, it's just a small organization to try to help to give back to communities that might need help. I've gathered a lot of people to help me do this, and I'm pretty low key about it. I'm just trying to do the right thing the best way I know how, and I think that I've done a really, really, really good job of that. I'm a great leader. I've brought other people with me to try to help other people, and I definitely have worked very, very hard. I'm very ashamed of the person that I was when I was 19, but I'm very, very proud of the person I am today. So I believe that I do deserve something like this. I've worked very hard for this, and when Scott Walker was the governor, I did not have that opportunity. I tried a lot of different programs, and I just didn't qualify. So I'm here today. As soon as I found out that this option and this opportunity was available to me, I got on it right away, and I've been patiently waiting to see you guys. So that's it. I'm really thankful for this opportunity.
Thanks, Jody. Cindy, you have a question?
I do. Good morning.
Good morning.
First, an observation. You had many letters of support, and your charitable work is impressive. So I want to comment on that. According to the criminal background check, you were arrested in 2020 for harboring, aiding a felon by the Milwaukee Police Department. No charges were filed, but can you tell us what that was about?
Yes, most definitely. Thank you so much. There was an accident outside of my house, and they said that whoever this person was in my house, which in fact, they were not in my house. I let them in my house voluntarily, and nobody was in my house at all. Nobody was found in my house. And yeah, that's what happened.
And so you were arrested?
Correct. They came to my house. I let them in my house. And then they took me to jail, questioning me about what took place, even though I was not outside. I was in my house when an accident took place. And they were trying to gather information. And they said that I knew who that person was. Which in fact, I was not outside. I did not see what happened at all. I have been cleared of everything. The district attorney put it through as a no process. I did not do anything to anyone, and I did not harbor anybody. And I do have proof that I believe the district attorney, last name might be Lansky. I do have a no process paper from him stating that I had nothing to do with it.
Very good. Thank you for explaining that.
Yes, thank you.
Jerry Hancock.
Jody, in your application, you talk about a difficult relationship with both your mother and father when you were growing up. And then there were several letters that seemed to indicate you had reconciled with your mother and father. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, and I do apologize. It's very traumatizing. All of these different emotions from my past, I worked really hard to move on from. But my father left when I was about 10. I grew up on the south side of Milwaukee. And after he left, of course, we lost that income. So I spent many nights in people's homes that I didn't know. I tried to do my best to get me and my mother out of that situation. And I made very, very poor decisions to get there. I always told myself, you know, I worked hard, I had a job, I was doing the right thing. And so as years passed, I finally, about 6 or 7 years ago, have reconciled with my father. And I even allowed him to live with me for quite some time. And as far as my mother, I forgive her, but I also, as an adult now, I understand that my mom tried her best to raise me by herself. So I have let go of that anger for both of them. And now I truly love them both. I definitely take responsibility for my actions. I made those choices, so I just did the best that I could. I tried my best. So, but now, of course, I do. I love them dearly, and I do everything for them still to this day.
Thank you, Jody. I know that was hard. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Any further questions? Well, thanks, Jody. I know it's not an easy forum to be able to talk about these difficult issues, but I do appreciate your candor with us. It helps us make an informed decision when we're making a recommendation to Governor Evers, and I hope you have a good weekend.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care. All right. Next on our agenda, we will be hearing from Jason Alston. So, Jason.
Yeah. How's it going? Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All
So
right.
you've seen how this works, Jason. So please, now is your opportunity to share your story with us, and then we'll have some questions for you.
Well, kind of similar to hers. I didn't get to meet my father until I was about 37. So I grew up in a single parent home. My mother's only child, and she got married, then got divorced. So at the age of 13, she was taking care of 3 kids. Ended up getting a job at 14 at County Stadium, being an usher, and kind of helping her out as I could. Things started getting hard, and we had to live with family. She ended up getting a place for us. It was like a 2-bedroom, but it was like 4 of us. So I ended up hanging with the wrong crowd, and instead of working, I let other people's lifestyles influence me instead of me stepping out and figuring out what it is I'm purpose to do. So in July of 2000, I was getting caught with crack cocaine, and I bailed out. And at that moment, I thought, like, this is not for me. I'm going to work. And what I did, and what was my issue, was I changed my thought, but not the company I kept. And so with that being the case, if I've learned that if you can't influence the people around you, they'll influence you. And so whether it's positively or negatively. And so what happened was I got caught. I decided to sell drugs again. And the first day I was going to sell drugs again, I got caught again. And I mean, I wasn't even full 2 hours outside. So, but I had ample warnings. They came to my mother's house before, you know, kind of telling her, hey, you shouldn't be out here, you're hanging with the wrong people. You know, and I just didn't listen. I had already been shunning what right to do in my mind. And so I ended up getting caught again November 4th, 2000. So like 4 months later, I got caught again. So I have 2 cases within 3 or 4 months. And I remember getting going to the county and thinking like, dude, I mean, and it really allowed me time because I knew I wasn't going nowhere for a while. And it allowed me time to really kind of reflect on my life and what I wanted to do. And I remember the first thing I saw was the Bible. And I'm like, okay, because I figured it was God's way of, you know, trying to get my attention, you know. And so I ended up getting sentenced to, I was facing 30 years for both cases. And I ended up bringing them concurrent together, but I know it's still probably 2 felonies I put in that both of them I wanted to get rid of. I ended up getting, Russell Stapper was my judge. I ended up getting 2 years and 18 and 2 years on paper. And once released, I started working at a temporary agency. And I don't think people understand how hard it is and what all it takes. You have to earn the public's trust again because they see this big status on your name, you know, and we all make bad choices, but, you know, we still got to face them and we still have to, you know, make something positive out of it, do something positive out of it. So after working at a temp agency, I ended up getting a job for a subcontractor working for the city, driving tow trucks. So I was the one coming to get people's cars with too many parking tickets. Sorry to anybody whose car I may have gotten at the time. But after that, it wasn't like my passion. Like your passion is anything you don't mind waking up doing every day. And I knew cooking was my passion. So I ended up going to culinary school at MNCC. And I graduated, got my associate, and they actually offered me a job before I graduated as a limited term position as a culinary assistant. And I ended up taking the job. It was a 3-year term. And after that, I ended up being the executive chef for the Surge Group. They own a few restaurants here in Milwaukee. And another job opportunity presented itself at Marquette. So I ended up being the executive chef at Marquette for 3 years at the AMU. All during that time, I ended up going to Cardinal Stretch to get my a bachelor's degree in business management. So I got that, and I was actually pushed to get that by other coworkers at MACC so I could be a lead instructor someday. And along my travels, barbecue kind of followed me. And when I was working for Surge, I ended up changing their menu to barbecue, working at Marquette. I ended up doing barbecue pop-ups and demos. And I got tired of making everybody else money. And so the opportunity presented itself to open my own restaurant in the Crossroads Collective. And we've been open a little over 2 years. It's called Heaven's Table Barbecue. I think I sent you guys all the newspaper ads, magazines, articles. We've been on Fox 6 a ton, winning barbecue competitions. I really found something that I was able to do legally. And I actually love to do it. So now I'm in the process of opening my own standalone in 55th and North near Wauwatosa in Milwaukee. I also have another location that I can't speak about yet, but it's with the Mandel Group here in the city. So I was on my way to get my master's, but I ended up getting married. So I had to, focus on that a lot. It's kind of hard going to school, being a father and a husband. So I had to put that on the back burner. But I was on my way to get my master's in business management too. So kind of glad at this opportunity. I would be relieved to get that off my record. And I just believe that what I have been is inspiration to those who have walked down my path, so they can see a successful way out, whether it's cooking or whatever it may be. There's always another way to do things. To this day, my mom's fine. I can take care of her anytime I need to. My sister, brother is fine. Really grooming my children to do the right thing and understanding how important it is for a male figure to be in your life, you know, whether it's an uncle, dad, whoever, just kind of having somebody to kind of push you in the right direction. Because it's easy to find trouble, especially nowadays, but you know, you gotta kind of look for positive people, even if it's only a handful of. So it's really my story.
Great. Thanks, Mr. Elston. Do members of the board have questions for him? Jeff?
So two things. One, you say in your application that you and your wife have been trying to move to a new area, but have been denied due to your family background. Can you tell me what that's about?
Well, trying to get into different apartment buildings, they do extensive background checks, and you know, no matter how long it's been, it's really up to them if they want to trust you in their facility or not. You know, even though I haven't gotten in any trouble in almost 21 years, you know, sometimes it doesn't matter. But what happened was I have a mentor that taught me how to get my credit together. We actually bought a house, so we didn't have to worry about that anymore.
Okay. And then the other one is, it's not so much a letter of support as it is I've noticed your barbecue restaurant being heavily promoted by or favorably promoted by Judge Derek Mosley.
Oh yeah.
Who speaks very highly of the food. I'm not a barbecue aficionado, but if he is, that's good enough for me. So thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, I've been knowing Judge Mosley for a while. He used to come to my mother's house all the time when I was still living with her and getting food. So he's been a fan for a while.
Yeah, he's a big food fan too. Thank you.
I've eaten a lot of Heaven's Table. I can confirm it's delicious.
I think we have some conflicts of interest here.
See? I apologize, but not apologize.
No need.
Noble and then Jerry. Oh, you're good, Noble? So Jerry?
Did you get your own sausage made? Did that work out?
Yes. So Prislov Meats, they're out in New Berlin. They make my sausage for me. But right now, I have a good friend who's really helping me really make it in-house now. I bought a sausage grinder for a couple of restaurants that went out of business. I bought a lot of supplies. So I have about 4 different sausages now that we're making by hand. I get a lot of scraps from Bunzel's because they don't know what to do with them. Bunzel's is a butcher shop here. And so we're putting, I really just want to hit on one that I can sell at Johnsonville, and maybe we can be set for a couple of years, my wife and I.
Congratulations.
Any further non-barbecue related questions? All right, well, thanks, Mr. Olson, for meeting with us today. And it was interesting reading about your journey, and appreciate your time with us, and hope you and your wife have a good weekend. So thank you.
Very much. All right.
All right, next up on our agenda is we will be hearing from Preston Jackson Jr. And I'll just note at the beginning, Judge Kremers is going to be recusing himself from this because I do believe he was partially involved at one point in your.
I'm good now.
All right, so Preston, can you hear us? Looks like we're having some audio issues. I think this is a similar issue that we had with Jody. And so I think what we'll do, Preston, is we'll loop back to you. So I'll have Joe Clark on my staff will reach out to you, and we'll probably have you call in or do it by phone. But we'll go to our next applicant, and then we'll come back to you. All right, so then we'll go to, while we sort out the audio situation with Preston, we will go to Nikki Thiel. So Nikki, if you wouldn't mind unmuting yourself.
Hello?
Yep, we can hear you.
Hi, thanks for having me. So my story is back in 1999. I was living with my boyfriend at the time in Madison. He got involved with selling marijuana out of our apartment, and he was getting it from California, getting shipped to us. It got caught in Milwaukee by a narcotics dog that sniffed it out. So then we had an undercover police officer come to our door and deliver it, asked if we accepted the package. And Jason, my boyfriend at the time, said, yes, we'll accept it. Then he brought it in our house. And then after that, the cops came in, put us in separate rooms, interviewed us. They asked me if I knew what was going on. And I said, yes, I did know what was going on. I did not sell marijuana, but I did count money, knew what was going on, allowed it to happen, help him ship the money back to California. So that's kind of what happened. We both got sentenced to 1 year in jail and 5 years probation. I ended up serving 9 months of that 12-month sentence. And I believe I was on probation for 3 years, got early release. I had to do an AODA assessment and I was fine. I didn't have any further treatment or anything like that. While I was in jail, no incidences, no problems. And that's about it. The pardon, I haven't been in trouble since then. That's the only thing that I've really ever been in trouble for. Might have had one traffic violation, but that's about it. And the reason for the pardon is, it was 22 years ago. I've, haven't had anything since then. My husband and I both own a couple successful businesses. We have a 5-year-old son. I'd like to be able to volunteer with his schooling. This year was kind of different, but hopefully coming up here when he's in kindergarten and stuff, I'll be able to help out with school. And also another big thing is that we've had some complications with pregnancies, and we have talked about, about adoption, possibly. So that's about it.
Thanks, Nikki. So we'll move on to questions. I know it's difficult talking about these things on an online form in public, let alone online. Cindy O'Donnell has a question for you, though. So Cindy.
Good morning. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Ryan. Is there a reason that you did not submit any letters of support? I'm just curious. Nothing from family or friends or business?
I guess it's just been so long ago that I felt like I could kind of speak for myself. I kind of put my family through a lot with that. And I'm not associated with any of those people in my life anymore. And not a lot of people know about it in the community and stuff. So I kind of just didn't want to bring it up again.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the board? Noble.
This came up earlier with another person requesting a pardon regarding voting, and I see that you have it here on yours.
Yes.
And so you are allowed to vote in Wisconsin.
Oh, really?
Yes. Unless there's some other extenuating circumstances, citizenship, etc.
No.
You are allowed.
Oh, I did not know that. Well, that's good to know.
Well, thanks for meeting with us today, Nikki.
Yeah.
I know it's not easy. And like I told the previous applicants, you'll hear from us in the next few weeks in terms of the outcome of this process, but hope you have a good weekend.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We're going to try Preston again. So Preston, if you wouldn't mind unmuting yourself, and hopefully we'll be able to hear from you this time.
Good morning.
Perfect. We can hear you now. So Preston, as you probably heard from me earlier, Judge Kremers is going to recuse himself from hearing from you, but the rest of the board members will. So please proceed.
Yes, sir. Good morning. My name is Preston Jackson. Back in 2003, my dad was diagnosed with lung cancer, and he fought a real good battle with it. But I want to tell you a little bit about my dad. Ever since I've been on this earth, my dad has been an active part of me and my brother's life and my sister's. He was like my hero. And towards the end, I'm seeing this great man just shrink right in front of me. And so in 2005, an associate of mine told me after we had tried to get my dad to eat, he had lost his appetite, go to his favorite restaurant, cook his favorite foods, and he just wouldn't eat anymore. And a friend of mine told me that sometimes they give cancer patients marijuana to get them to get an appetite. But unfortunately, he succumbed to that. It didn't work, and I lost my dad November of 2006. And the remaining part of the marijuana that I had purchased, I was selling it to a friend of mine that I knew from the neighborhood. And unfortunately, he was an informant for the sheriff's department. And that's how this list of events occurred. My sentence, I was sentenced to 7 months. At the time, it was called the Community Correctional Center, CCC. It was on 9th and Highland, right across from the jail. I was sentenced to 7 months, but I ended up doing 5 months for good behavior. It was a learning experience for me because truly I had never been in this type of situation. I'm a veteran. I did 12 years in the military. Desert Storm, Desert Shield veteran. I knew better. I just didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to save my dad. And from that point, I did my my sentence with no problems. I didn't get extended. I got released early, and from that point, I had started working with my lodge. And I'm a 32nd degree Mason. I started working with my lodge, and I started participating and feed the homeless. And we had an annual backpack distributed all prior to the COVID. We was doing it every year where we would hand out backpacks to the inner city youth. And we have a program called Knights of Dagger, and that's for like youth males from the age 12 to 19. And I talked to the guys about the mistakes that I made and how you thinking that you're doing something good to help somebody that you care for, but you're really breaking the law. And there's no gray area with that. You break the law, there's consequences. And I try to educate the young youth now on making better decisions, because I know I made a bad decision. After the completion of my sentence, I'm 3 credits away from getting my associate degree from MATC in logistics. I am a single grandfather. I've been raising my 9-year-old grandson since he was 2 years old. I'm an active member in my community. I'm an assistant block captain on my block, and every opportunity that I have, I reach out to young, even riding in my car, see a group of kids out on the street, and so I'll get out and talk with them, let them know there's a better way of doing things. I've been working out at the Milwaukee VA Medical Center for the last going on 9 years, and I see a lot of the young guys that come back from Afghanistan and they're in a mental state, and I talk with those guys too about drugs and alcohol. And the reason that I am seeking requesting a pardon, I know I made some mistakes. I know I made mistakes. And the last 14 years, I have tried to correct those mistakes and be a better person. I have had absolutely no police contact in the 14 plus years. I have been a productive, upstanding citizen, and I've been trying to give back to my community by telling my story. You know, that's my testimony. The thing that made me get through it, because I brought a disgrace to my family by getting arrested. But I trust in God, and God been leading me the path that I'm on now. But when I got custody of my grandson, I didn't know what I was going to do. I looked at this as a young life, a young man, 2 years old. How am I going to do this by myself? And with the Lord's grace and his blood, I got an honor roll grandson. He's on the honor roll. He's in 4th grade. He's on the Little League team, Beckham and Stapleton Little League, which I helped as assistant coach for him. And I try to do the things that my dad did for me and the things that I did for my son and my daughter. And I know that I made that mistake, and there's been jobs here that I've been trying to apply for in the medical center, and I got overlooked. And I know it's because of the felony on my record. Because when you read it, it says intent to deliver while armed, and it make me sound like a horrible person. And it don't state that the weapons that was in my home was all registered. Like I said, when I was in the military, that was my thing. I was a military police, and I collected weapons. And so I just want a chance to be a better son in my career, and also provide a more positive impact on my community. I don't know where this makes it take me.
Thanks, Mr. Jackson.
But I appreciate, you taking the opportunity to talk to me and giving me the opportunity to tell my story.
Great. Thanks, Mr. Jackson. Do members of the board have questions for him? All right. Well, I think you're getting off easy today. It's usually a good sign, though, Mr. Jackson. Appreciate you sharing your story with us in detail. And you'll be hearing from us in the not too distant future, but hope you have a good weekend.
You as well, sir. And thank you all for giving me the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you.
You all have a blessed day.
You too. All right. And so next up on our agenda, we will be hearing from Russell Schmid. All right, do we have Russell with us?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay.
On the Sarbacker Law
Great.
page here.
Well, you've seen how this works, and so now is your opportunity to share your story with us, and then the board may have some questions for you, so please proceed.
All right, my name is Russell Schmid. Back in 2019, I'm sorry, 2004, I'm sorry, till 2009, I did not pay any state taxes or federal taxes. And since then, I have paid, since before my sentencing date, I totally paid the back restitution that the state wanted. And I'm sorry, I'm not a very good public speaker, so I just I stumble over a lot of words. That was my offense. My sentence from the state was originally 6 months in Huber Center with work release privileges and 4 years probation. And per our plea agreement, that was cut in half. So I spent 3 months in Huber Center in Portage, Wisconsin, and 2 years of probation. Since that time, I've been trying to better myself. I'm really this is totally out of my character to do something like this. It was a really bad time for me. I was having trouble paying my bills. I had a house payment, truck payment, and other bills that I could not afford to pay. That is really the reason why I didn't. I took the exempt form on my W-2 so I could get as much money as I could to keep myself afloat. The banks wouldn't refinance my truck. and my house was just purchased. I couldn't refinance that. And it was hard for me. I had a really hard time, and I kept getting these letters from the state and the money that I owed, and I just kept ignoring them. And then they just showed up one day with this court order, and with a little help from my parents, I was able to pay the state what I owed them before I went, which is part of my plea agreement. And right after I paid all this money for back to the state, I lost my father, and that was a little hard on me. But so basically, I lost my father in December of 09. Yep, December of 09, right at Christmas time, I lost him. And then I went to Huber, basically the Huber Center, right first part of January. And so, that was 3 really hard months for me, and when I wanted to be there for my mother and I couldn't be there. And yeah, well, so, but since then, no, I've haven't had any police contact. And prior to that, I hadn't had any police contact at all, except for once when I was 16, right after I got my driver's license, I got a speeding ticket. But since then, or before then, or after that, I have not had any police contact at all or been any trouble of any sort. So there's I mean, I don't know why I did this. I mean, it's not my character. I'm not that kind of person. So I'm glad you give me the opportunity to do this. And why do I think I should receive the pardon? Because I'm not that kind of person. I just this has also prevented me from getting some jobs. I've had my CDL since I was 20 years old, and there's been jobs that I haven't been able to get, decent paying jobs, because of the felony. Some of them are hazardous materials and stuff, and locations that I cannot get into with a CDL or with a felony conviction. It's it's hurt me the whole way around. I like going fishing. We always used to go fishing in Canada, and since I got the felony, I can't get across the border to go fishing, and that's a bummer. All my buddies were going fishing, and here you are stuck at home still. And I really miss that. That'd be nice to do that again also. So I'm open for any questions you have for me.
Sure. Cindy?
Good morning. According to the criminal complaint and the report of the investigator for the Department of Revenue, when you weren't reporting income for those years, and it was 6 years, you had income not only from W-2s, but from 1099-Gs, which is gambling income. So you had money to gamble during that time?
That's probably where I got some of my money for paying my bills. That, we'll go gambling and we'll make some money there, and or try to, it's I don't know. I just was doing everything I could to survive, and it's just like that. And once in a while you can hit it big at a casino, and I mean I haven't been to a casino in years, so.
Thank you.
Yep.
Judge Kremers, and then we'll go to Noble.
Hey, good morning, sir. So it sounds to me like today you're saying that the reason you didn't pay taxes is because you were just kind of overwhelmed with all your other bills and you just couldn't do it. But in the complaint, the criminal complaint that you're charged with, it reads like you were affirmatively telling the Department of Revenue that you didn't make any money at all. You didn't have any taxable income. And in fact, you wrote a letter to the Department of Revenue apparently that said that the tax code doesn't include wages as income. So it almost, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but it almost sounds like you had this philosophy, if you will, that the money you were receiving from wherever you were working at the time didn't constitute taxable income, and therefore the state didn't have any right to tax it. Am I misreading that?
That's what the intent of that letter probably was, but in the end, I was just so overwhelmed. It was well, it's, you file this letter, you file this letter, you file this letter, and sooner or later they'll leave you alone. But like I said, I was like trying to make house payments and truck payments, and my job that I was mainly using for that source of revenue, or for my bills, the company got bought out and the owner had moved, and I went from a $23 an hour job to a $12 an hour job overnight. And I just, it was just like someone said, here, try this and this will help you out. And me, stupid me, I listened to them, and here I am today sitting here trying to do this.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Noble?
Yes. Good afternoon, Steve. I do have a question regarding your social media posts. Seem to be pretty active on Facebook. This was revealed by the investigators. There's a number of posts that seem to be inconsistent in supporting, First Amendment rights, but they seem to be, inconsistent in regards to their statement. Could you talk a bit about your social media posts?
My social media is just for me and for my friends, and most of it's for fun. It's some of it's serious. It's just like what are you referring to on?
Well, you're making a number of statements that in the public domain are inconsistent with the truth in many respects, and so if this is just for your friends, it is on social media, and the public does have access to it.
Yeah. So, I don't know how to answer that.
Thank you.
Jerry?
Mr. Schmidt, I have two questions for you about your social media. Do you believe Joe Biden is a pedophile?
No.
Then why would you post that on Facebook?
I don't recall posting anything saying that Joe Biden is a pedophile, but he does act a little strange towards some of his actions are strange.
Oh, okay. My second question is, do you think Tony Evers should be recalled?
I have no comment on that.
Well, okay.
I think we should, if you guys don't mind, I think we should move on from talking about social media and instead focus on Mr. Schmidt's background here. So do any board members have questions about the underlying offense or what has occurred since then? Thank you. Do you have anything else you would like to add, or would your representative like to add anything, Mr. Schmidt?
I could just clarify a couple of things here. I just wanted, and Mr. Schmidt didn't really get this through to the board, I don't believe. He was initially charged in July of 2009. The complaint was filed. His first appearance was August of 2009. He pled guilty about 60 days later in October of 2009. And in 25 plus years of criminal law as a prosecutor and a defense lawyer, I haven't really seen somebody do that. He went in unrepresented and pled guilty to felonies within 60 days. Before he started his 60 days of jail, he had the restitution paid here. And so the DA reduced the sentence by 3 months. But I don't know, he with a first offender getting felonies straight out of the gate here in jail time, I don't know if I would have allowed that as a counsel to plead that quickly. I think so. I haven't seen this quick of contrition in a case in my career. So I just wanted to point that out. And you know, I wasn't aware that social media or his personal political beliefs was going to come into the fray here. But check out my social media. I'm more liberal than you'll. To me, that should not be a concern here.
Just to be clear, sir, it's not. So
you know, I'm sorry. But other than that, you know, with the one thing he forgot to say is his mortgage is paid in full now. Like the likelihood to reoffend or do something like this again, you know, and he is a truck driver. He spreads fertilizer for FS, the co-op in Arlington. But like I say, I believe those are just the other things, and he didn't really clarify his sentence. But I think you have the DOC records. I don't believe there are any probation holds, or when he was serving his jail, he was never put in the hole or anything like that. So I would just respectfully submit those facts to the board. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate the context and additional information. Yeah, and I think just for everybody's information in terms of, we do check social media because sometimes it indicates people are continuing, you know, certain types of behaviors that are related to their underlying offense. And sometimes it gets a little bit tricky in terms of postings about specifically about the Capitol insurrection, for example, and how that might or might not tie to somebody's prior conduct in terms of encouraging violence. And so, but I agree with you in terms of personal political beliefs are just that, they're personal. So without any further questions, as you've heard me say before, the board will be making a decision later today, but I do appreciate you sharing your story with us and sharing your time, and hope you both have a good weekend. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, and so next up, we will be hearing from Shannon Sweeney Walker.
Hi.
Hi, Shannon.
Shannon Sweeney Walker. So back in 2006, my house was raided. I did go to jail. I had initially 3 charges, one for possession of marijuana with intent. One was for possession of cocaine with intent, and the other was maintaining a drug trafficking place. In 2007, I was sentenced. Everything else was just read in except for the maintaining the drug trafficking place. That is what I was charged with. I was given 3 years on probation. Also with, I believe it was a 6-month state sentence for the county jail if I had gotten in any trouble during that time. I did successfully complete my probation back in 2010. While on probation, I did go to the AODA classes. They sent me to cognitive thinking classes. So I did do all of those. I did get my JD while I was on probation as well. Since then, even when I was on probation, I started making a lot of changes in my life. Right after I got off probation, I continued my education. I have my associate's degree in accounting. I was planning on going and getting my CPA license, but I kind of had a standstill with that because you know, to pay for the continuing schooling, I had to have some type of financial funds coming in with the cost of schooling. So, and then I started looking for a job, hoping to find something in that field, just to get my foot in the door. And every time I turned around, it was like a dead wall. Nobody wanted to hire me. They kept looking at my background, and it was just, I kind of got tired of it, but I still didn't give up. I started just doing other things. I have worked with nonprofits. I have successfully helped create 2 nonprofits, one being All Kids Matter and the other one being Moms on a Mission to Succeed. I have worked with them for a while with things in the community. I had an opportunity to work with foster children, but that was again denied due to my background. So the main reason I'm asking for a pardon is I do realize that I made a huge mistake in life. I was involved with the wrong people. A lot of that stemmed from my upbringing, my childhood. I don't want to say it's an excuse, but it is part of the reason on how I ended up on the path I have been on, you know, that before all of this. So I've really, really tried working with the community, getting involved, working with kids, especially the path that I came from. I want the pardon because there's a lot of things I can't do with the felony on my record. I can't work with foster children because it's considered barred employment. When it comes to that they cannot hire me to work in, I was like a group home for foster children. So that's a lot of reasons why I want the pardon. I've done so much to change my life around. I would like to be able to do more and help more within the community, but with this felony, it just makes it hard to do anything that I really want to do.
Thanks, Shannon. Do members of the board have questions for her? All right, well.
One quick question. Can you tell us about your relationship with Peggy Rogers? She wrote a very, very wonderful letter for you.
So Peggy Rogers was one of my foster mothers. I was in foster homes for about 3 years, 9 different homes. Peggy has always been what I consider a role model to me. So there were some incidents when I lived with her, me and her daughter. We were really young. We were, 12, 13. We would fight like sisters. And being in the foster care system, they couldn't have that. So I was removed from her home. But even to this day, me and her still have a great relationship. She's always been very positive, very encouraging for me.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Thanks for meeting with us today, Shannon. Appreciate you sharing your story with us, and you'll hear from us in a few weeks. But have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right. So next up, we have Byron Nash. So Byron, you've seen how this goes, so please proceed.
Hello, thank you guys, and thank you guys for your time and taking time out to be with me today. I would like to start off, can you guys hear me okay? I would like to start off by saying that in April 2nd, 2010, my mother was killed by my father in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It was a pretty terrible case. At the time, my fiance, soon to be wife, I'm actually getting married in June of this year. So my fiance, she was pregnant at the time, and I had a baby on the way. And when I received that news, it was some of the hardest news that, you know, I can take, because, you know, they were together 30 years, married over 20 years, and all of a sudden out the blue, you know, he did what he did. And so after that happened, and you know, I was scared. So I felt like I needed protection, you know, inside of my home. So me being young, not knowing anything about weapons or guns or anything, I illegally bought a gun off the street from a guy. It was a shotgun. It's pretty big. I'm a pretty short person, maybe 5'2". So the gun was pretty much bigger than me. So I asked the guy, is there any way, you know, you can make the gun, you know, smaller? Because I didn't know anything about guns, like I said. So the guy ended up making the gun smaller for me, which was a bad thing. But at the time, I didn't know that sawing off a shotgun or anything was a felony. Like I said, I was 18 years old. I pretty much could have went to the store and probably purchased a weapon, but I didn't know, like I said. So to make a long story short, me and my brother, we weren't on the best of terms at the time. And he knew I had that gun inside my home. And we got into an argument one day, and he sent the police to my house, and they found the gun in my house. They arrested me. I spent about 3 or 4 days in the House of Corrections. I ended up bonding out with, you know, my last $1,000 that I had, been 18, 19-year-old kid. So during that process, I was going to court, and the day of my sentencing day, they actually switched my judges. They switched my judge because he was working a murder trial that day. So the day of my sentencing day, I got a brand new judge. My attorney at the time, public defender at the time, he barely knew my name. So we walked into this courtroom seeing this new judge, and he pretty much looked at me and, you know, he gave me probation, which, you know, he could have did worse because, you know, at the end of the day, whether you know it or not, purchasing guns, buying guns illegally is illegal. So he put a non-expungement on my record, being the first time me ever getting arrested or ever getting in any trouble of any type of sorts. So after that, I completed my 2.5 years probation, no problems of any sort. And after that, I continued to start working. And during me working, and I've actually had 2 more kids since then. So I have 3 kids, a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 3-year-old. And pretty much, I felt like I definitely needed to get my high school diploma. So last year, I enrolled in the HSCD program, and I've earned my diploma. And it pretty much made me, it pretty much completed me and made me feel good. And I know everybody makes mistakes, and I made a terrible mistake. And I know that what I did wasn't right. And I know better now that, you know, I know some things that I wish I could change, but I can't. And this is something that's just been hindering me from going forward with my life. Like I said, it's been city jobs I applied for, school bus driving jobs I applied for, and they've denied me. since the altercation with me and my brother, we're actually, like I said, back to being best friends. He's actually going to be my best man at my wedding in June. I'm actually currently planning that. I took off work today to be able to tell you guys, you know, the man I've become and the person that I've become, and I've changed. And this has pretty much been a hard process for me with everything that went on. And I just pray that you guys see it.
Oops, thanks, Byron. Do members of the board have questions? Judge Kremers?
Morning, sir. A couple of questions. First one, are you still working at Raphael Industries?
I can't hear.
Are you still working at Raphael Industries?
Yes, yes, sir. 54th and Burnham. Yes, I've been at Raphael Industries for 3 years now. Had a little vacation time, so of course, when I got that letter from you guys, there was no question that I had to take off today. Yes, but I'm still currently employed with them as of today.
And it looks like you are into making music videos.
Yes, yes, I make music videos. Music is a passion of mine. You know, being young, from the inner city, you know, it's only a few, you know, it's only a few ways for us to, you know, be able to express ourselves without, you know, so yeah, music is a passion of mine. It's always been a passion of mine ever since I was 9 and 10 years old. So yeah, I love music.
So it looks like in a couple of them anyway, you're seen holding firearms. Care to respond to that?
Yes, those are video props. So yes, yes, those are video props. It's to get views on YouTube and make people watch the video. Those are video props, and I understood that during this session that we had, when you talked to the other guy about the things that, you know, he had on his social media, I was afraid of you guys asking that question, but yes, those are video props.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Well, thank you, Mr. Nash, for meeting with us today, and appreciate you taking your time, and hope you have a good weekend, and you'll hear from us.
All right, thank you guys, and I appreciate you guys again for taking out your time to be with me, and hopefully you guys enjoy your weekend.
Thanks, Byron. All right, and next we will be moving on to Kent Slozlewski. So Kent, are you with? Looks like you're with us by phone. So Kent, you've heard how this goes. Now is your opportunity to share your story with us.
Okay, my name is Kent Selesky. In 1991, I was caught in possession with intent to deliver marijuana and cocaine. At the time, I just got caught up with the wrong crowd of people. I had an offer made to me to make some easy money, and just the wrong decision that I made. I got caught. I served 11 months of a 12-month sentence in Waukesha County Jail with work release. I got released 1 month early for good behavior. I had 5 years of probation, which I served. Visited with my probation officer, which I had a very good relationship. Seen him once a month. Since the completion of my sentence, I got a good job in the union as a bricklayer, and I've worked at that job for like almost 30 years. I just recently retired. After I got out of jail, I married, I bought a house with my wife, had a child. We still reside at the same house and very happily married for 26 years. I would like to receive a pardon because I just think that everyone should deserve a second chance. I know now that I made the wrong decision. I made a lot of corrections to better my life. My wife and I are both retired now and would like to start doing a lot of travels, such as like Canada. We have friends that have a place in Canada, invite us there, but I've tried to get there several times. They won't let me in because I'm a felon. So yeah, they have several restrictions, no convicted felons. So yeah, I would also like to have my privilege again of possessing a gun. I always enjoyed hunting. I hunted a lot with my father when I was young. Had a lot of great memories. I would like to share some of those same kind of memories with my own children and grandchildren someday. I think hunting is a great way to enjoy the outdoors, and I really miss it. It's been almost like 30 years since I've committed the crime. I've turned my life around, completely for the better. And this pardon would be greatly appreciated by both myself and my family. That's about it.
All right, thanks, Ken. Do members of the board have questions? All right, well, thanks for meeting with us this morning, Ken, for taking the time, and you'll hear from us in the near future.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a good weekend.
You too. All right, and next on our agenda, we have James Harris. So James, you're our lucky final applicant today. So thanks for bearing with us through all this. If you wouldn't mind just unmuting yourself, and then we'll hear from you.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yep, we can.
All right, thank you for having me today. I'm very grateful for this opportunity. It's been a long time coming. I have been trying for a while. I've been working really hard. But my story is a little bit different. I guess it's even hard for me to understand sometimes because I grew up on the north side of Milwaukee, where my dad really wasn't in the picture. He was around, but he really wasn't around. My mom, she was there. She was, welfare. And we just lived in an area where the norm was a lot of illegal stuff. And so, but regardless of any of that, in my childhood, with all the trauma and all the drama, I still had laser focus on my education. So although I had all this negative influence and all this negativity around me, I really, really was focused on my education. So I actually was a good kid. I always had A's. I was a teacher's pet a lot of times. I got awards, all types of stuff. But at some point, I want to say around age 15, I ended up succumbing to the environment. I was very impressionable. At a time where I felt like my dad, I really needed him. I was very impressionable. And I had a lot of negative influence, and I made some really stupid choices. And so right around that 15, 16 age, I started to not care so much about school. And I started being around the wrong people. My grades started failing, and I ended up just making a really bad choice. At the time, about my case. So I ended up being around drugs. I was using drugs, started selling drugs. And when I was 17, I ended up being convicted of possessing drugs with intent to deliver. And at that moment, I actually had a son. Can you guys still hear me? Okay, sorry about that. I actually had a son. So I was 17, actually 16. I had a son on the way, and I just got in trouble with the law. And so now I'm in a position where I'm looking back over my life and it's all flashing. And I'm like, dude, how stupid could you be? Like you've been doing all this good stuff and you got all this going for you. And then you backtracked and went the wrong route. And so right around the age of 17, got in trouble with the law, ended up having my son, but it was like life altering because the moment that I got in trouble, I made up my mind that it wasn't for me. So I went in, I pled guilty. I was sentenced to 9 months jail and 3-year probation. Contrary to what many people believe, that probation really was good for me. A lot of people hate it, but I really know that it helped me a lot because there was so much accountability there. My probation officer, she was pretty strict. She helped keep me on a narrow path. And, you know, I did what I needed to do. While I was in jail, I finished my schooling. So I did get my diploma the year that I was supposed to get it. I took a CGIP class, which is cognitive intervention, which is a class where it teaches you how to think alternatively. So you reroute your thoughts. So when you're in a situation, it just taught me how to slow down and think about the different outcomes before actually making a decision. And so that really helped me long term. So I still talk to people about that even today, and teach them some of those skills. What else did I do? I just pretty much got everything that I could get while I was there. And so once I came home, right away, hit the ground running, got me a job. I just wanted to do what was right. I caught the bus, did what I needed to do. During that period, remember I said that 15 to about 17, can you still hear me? My phone. During that period, I, believe it or not, obtained roughly $2,000 worth of driving tickets. Because at the time, license, that just wasn't really a big topic. Like it was just that lifestyle. It wasn't about consequences. It was really just reckless. And so when I came home, I realized how far behind I was in life. Like I had all these driving tickets, I had all this stuff I needed to take care of. And so I did that. I worked at my job for 5 years until we were laid off. Took care of everything I needed to do, started a business, got married. I just was, doing everything I could to just live as a productive citizen and father. And so fast forward from there, I've just been doing everything I could it wasn't necessarily the things that I do now in the community and for my city and for the youth. It was never really about a show or any of that stuff. It's really from the heart. I'm a mentor. James Harris is an entrepreneur, community activist, father, all those things. And so nowadays, I'm out in the community doing cleanups, and these are things I organize. I have a kickball league, which on the surface, it doesn't sound like much, but it's 18 and up. So what the vision was, it was to create a platform where an 18-year-old, which is right around the time I was getting in trouble, can be on the same field with, teachers, police officers, common people who just have good jobs, mentors, So it's all of us all in one. And right now we're probably 300-400 people. But it brings them together in a way, in a non-conventional way, where they probably would never meet in any other way. And so, and that's how, if you look at some of the letters, that's how I actually met some of those people. And some of them became friends with me. So I'm out in the community doing that. I'm doing cleanups. I'm doing pop-ups, which just stopping, like one of the other guys said, if I see some teenagers playing basketball or something, I want to pick their brains. And because I know a lot of them don't have any positive influences. So I'm doing that. One of my actual greatest achievements was I got an opportunity to go to the actual jail where I was. And I went in there this time as an entrepreneur and as a mentor to say to those guys, you know, look, I understand where you are, but this is where you can go if you come out with a made up mind and with a plan. So now is the time to plan. So I'm pretty busy. I want this pardon for several reasons. It's like a dark cloud. Although I've been able to accomplish a lot, it's still like a dark cloud over you. And it always resurfaces for whatever reason. Even though you want to put it behind you, it can resurface whenever I go for a new license, because like I said, I'm an entrepreneur. So whenever I go in for a license, you either have to write them letters or you have to, at one time, I had to actually go sit in front of a board like this before COVID and explain to them something that happened so many years ago. And so it's always coming up, like right now, a lot of people don't know, but my company, RJ Harris Photography, wedding photography company, there's a new owner of this building and he needs our space. And we've been here for like 7-8 years. He needs this space for his business. So he's growing. And so we have to look for another location. And every time you go in for a lease, you have that stigma of, okay, although you've been out of this world for 18 years, your name just says you're a drug dealer. And so it just never ends. But I feel like I do deserve this, and I'm out there being as positive as I can be. I mean, I do joke around, but I'm as positive as I can be. I mean, I've been out of the way. That's the way. That's how the youth talk. I've been out of the way. That means I've been away from any type of criminal, drugs, use, sell, any of that stuff. I'm just so far removed from that lifestyle. So that's my story.
Great. Thanks, Mr. Harris. Cindy?
Thanks for your patience today. It's always hard to be the last one. I know. So both the judge and the DA support you getting a pardon, and that's pretty unusual for us to see. Were you aware of that?
I wasn't.
Yeah.
I knew about the judge because I had to write him a letter or something.
Okay.
But I didn't know about the DA. So that's
yeah.
Wow.
So that's positive. I wanted to ask you, how during COVID has the wedding photography business done?
Oh wow. It's impacted us pretty big. And one of the reasons being the way the payment system works, we get a deposit, we get a second payment, and then we get a final payment right around the wedding day. And so 80 to 90% of our weddings moved out to this year. So the 2020 season was almost like, it was bad. It was bad. But it's picking back up.
Do you still employ around 10 photographers, or did you have to scale that back?
No, so I still do. A lot of it is just on call. So like we still have high school seniors. We still have stuff. It's just with those weddings and the crowds, that was just impacted pretty big.
Yeah. Well, thanks for all the community service work you do.
Absolutely.
Any other questions from the board? Well, thanks, Mr. Harris. Yeah, it was interesting hearing about your story and about your kickball league. So thanks for meeting with us, and you'll hear from us in the near future.
All right, thanks. Have a good weekend, everybody.
You as well. All right. And now that's the last of our applicants. And so now we'll be taking a look at going into closed session. And so I will be making a motion to move into closed session pursuant to WISSTAT sections 19.85 sub 1 paragraphs A, D, and F for purposes of deliberations concerning a case which is before the board, for purposes of considering specific applications, and for purposes of considering financial, medical, social, or personal histories of specific persons. Is there somebody who would second that motion? Judge Kremer seconds it. Anybody opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously, and I will be moving Wisconsin on.